Opendoor stock is once again setting up for an intriguing session as we move into Wednesday's pre-market. The stock clawed back a couple of cents in the after-hours on Tuesday, closing slightly higher after finishing the regular session at $6.11. That might not sound like much, but after everything we've seen over the last week, sometimes it's not about the size of the move. Sometimes it's about the message. And the message right now is that $6 continues to be defended, the energy around this stock hasn't gone away, and the narrative is quietly but steadily building momentum toward the next push higher. Let's take a step back and remind ourselves where we are. After that incredible 5-day rally that saw Opendoor run nearly 50% in value, the stock inevitably cooled off. Monday brought a 9% pullback, but as we noted at the time, that move happened on reduced volume. That was key. It told us the selling was more about short-term profit-taking than about conviction. And then Tuesday reinforced that red. The stock held $6, bounced slightly into the close, and even added a couple of cents in the aftermarket. In other words, the base is holding. And for a stock that's been as volatile as Opendoor, establishing a base is the first step toward the next breakout. But the real story heading into Wednesday isn't about official news headlines. It's about the signals coming out of the broader ecosystem, social media, summits, interviews, and even little product announcements that might have been easy to miss. All of these things, on their own, might seem small. But when you put them together, they start to paint a picture. A picture of a stock that isn't fading into obscurity after its rally, but instead gathering energy for what could be another leg up. Let's start with the Robinhood Summit. During the event, Robinhood CEO Vlad Tenev had his app displayed on stage, and what sharp-eyed viewers noticed was that he personally owns shares of Opendoor. Now, let's be clear. Vlad owning some stock doesn't change the fundamentals of Opendoor. It doesn't guarantee anything. But in this market, symbolism matters. And if you're a retail trader, seeing the head of Robinhood, the platform that so many retail investors use every day, holding Opendoor shares, that's a signal. It's a subtle vote of confidence. It's the kind of thing that reinforces the legitimacy of the Open Army's conviction. Next, let's talk about Anthony Pompliano. Pompliano has been one of the loudest and most consistent voices supporting Opendoor as part of his broader investing thesis. He's now promoting his Independent Investor Summit, which is hosting, and importantly, Eric Jackson will be presenting there to talk about Opendoor. That matters. Jackson has already become a central figure in this story, with his relentless activism, his 21-day campaign outside of Drake's Place, and his appearance on Fox News where he defended the stock and reiterated his target of $82 and beyond. Putting Jackson on stage at a high-profile event like Pompliano Summit just takes that visibility to another level. It says this story isn't just contained to Twitter threads or niche investor chats. It's breaking into mainstream conversations about disruptive stocks and opportunities. And let's not overlook Eric Jackson's growing credibility. When he went on Fox News earlier this week, he didn't just defend Opendoor. He pointed out his track record, his 71-cent cost basis, and the fact that his other stock picks are also doing very well. That matters because it shows that he's not a one-trick pony. He has an eye for opportunities that others overlook, and Opendoor is his biggest position. So when he takes that message to Pompliano Summit, it's going to resonate. It's going to add credibility to the narrative, and it's going to bring more eyes onto this stock. And then there's the company itself. A few days ago, and this slipped under the radar for many, interim CEO Srisha Radhakrishna shared that Opendoor's new app, Cash Plus, had already made its first successful sale just weeks after launching. Again, this isn't the kind of headline that sends a stock soaring on its own. But it's important. It's evidence. Evidence that the company is executing, that new initiatives are gaining traction quickly, and that the reinvention story isn't just talk. It's action. For bulls, this is exactly the kind of detail you want to see, because it shows the company isn't sitting still. It's experimenting, iterating, and proving that it can adapt. So when you put all of this together, Vlad Tenev quietly holding shares, Pompliano promoting Jackson's message, Srisha delivering on a product milestone, you start to see why the vibe around Opendoor feels so positive heading into Wednesday. It's not one massive catalyst. It's a series of small signals, each adding another layer to the story. And when a stock has 24% of its float sold short, that's around 155 million shares, even vibes matter. Because vibes turn into sentiment, sentiment turns into buying pressure, and buying pressure turns into momentum. That's how shorts get squeezed. That's how rallies happen. Now, some will say this is just noise. That without hard fundamentals, these kinds of social and cultural signals don't mean much. But history shows otherwise. We've seen time and again that momentum starts with energy. It starts with community. And Opendoor has that in spades right now. The Open Army isn't just holding the line at $6. They're amplifying the story across social media, they're celebrating every small win, and they're building a culture around this stock. That's why Eric Jackson calls it a cult stock, not a meme stock. Because this isn't just hype. It's conviction. It's a belief in a long-term vision that goes beyond day-to-day moves. And that vision is still the same, turning Opendoor into the Amazon of real estate. Using technology, data, and artificial intelligence to streamline the process of buying and selling homes, to cut out friction, and to scale the model nationally. That's the North Star. That's why Jackson and Pompliano are so vocal. That's why retail is so energized. And that's why even small product wins like Cash Plus matter. Because they're steps along the path to that larger goal. So where does this leave us heading into Wednesday's pre-market? It leaves us with a stock that's stable above $6, a retail movement that refuses to let go, activists amplifying the message on bigger stages, and a company quietly proving that it can execute on new ideas. It leaves us with short interest still sky high, meaning the potential for upside is still there if momentum builds. And it leaves us with a vibe that's increasingly bullish, even if the headlines don't scream it yet. For traders, the key level to watch is still $6. As long as that holds, the bull case remains intact. A push below 6 might bring more selling, but as I've said before, I would personally see that as a buying opportunity. Because the long-term story hasn't changed. For investors, the key is patience. The big moves don't happen overnight. They build. And what we're seeing now are the early signs of energy building again. For shorts, the message is simple. Don't ignore the signals. Retail isn't going away. Activists aren't backing down. And the company is still making progress. Betting against that kind of energy is risky. And if $6 continues to hold as the base, the risk of being caught in a squeeze only grows. So as we head into Wednesday, my outlook is bullish but grounded. I don't expect fireworks immediately. I expect a stock that continues to stabilize, continues to hold support, and continues to gather momentum. I expect activists like Eric Jackson to keep amplifying the story. I expect retail to keep defending the base. And I expect the vibe to keep shifting more and more in favor of the longs. And remember, it's not just about vibes. It's about a company reinventing itself, an activist movement holding leadership accountable, and a community that believes in the upside. That's why I remain confident. That's why I'm not afraid of red days. And that's why I believe the next leg higher could come sooner than many think.